What's a subtle sign that someone is mentally unstable? I have a term for a specific type of person, the disaster friend, quote unquote. It doesn't matter when you see them or how often you see them, but when you do, they never ask you how you're doing. And then they go on a long rant about everything going wrong with their life at the moment. They assume you know the context regardless of how long it's been since you've seen them. The rant generally includes people who, quote, haven't paid them back, or jobs that, quote, fired them for no reason. They will likely mention some illegal thing their last boss did or how someone screwed them over in some way. It boils down to a complete lack of self-awareness. They're basically just free associating what's on their mind out loud. If you try to help when things inevitably go wrong, they're going to have an excuse and ultimately find a way to make it your fault. You didn't tell me that if the job started at 8, I had to be there at 8, kind of thing. They're constantly some kind of crisis and miraculously always the victim of said crisis and never able to understand their own part in the situation. They are for the most part functional, so they don't appear to be mentally unstable, but the fact that they never have a moment of chill speaks to the instability under the hood. I know, right? I call these people professional problem havers. Story 2. An inability to sit alone with your thoughts for any period of time without any distractions. If you're not mentally stable, it can almost be physically painful to reflect on your life and think critically about oneself. I find that a lot of workaholics are this way because the cracks start to appear when they're not constantly busy. So it may seem like someone is well put together from the outside, but it's really a coping mechanism or a defense to not feel what they're avoiding dealing with. They run on adrenaline and cortisol, then burnout happens and the body and brain will force them to face their problems head on. Story 3. My best friend of 20 years developed schizophrenia at age 27. She was always an odd person, didn't care what people thought, and laughed way too loud at her own jokes, but something shifted when she started laughing in a snarky way to herself, like someone was delivering her one-liners that only she could hear. Then one day she started responding to the voices delivering those one-liners and eventually doing what they said, like driving down the freeway at 90 miles an hour while engaging in reckless behavior. She was 50'd soon after. It's been 10 years and she's probably lost to mental illness forever. Story 4. Most of these comments are not subtle signs, but blatant red flags. I think I read one comment stating, hurts animals. Like, come on, Einstein, this is a blatant red flag that this person is mentally unstable, not subtle whatsoever. Who sits there and responds to someone torturing an animal like, I think Bob might not be okay. Subtle signs include social isolation, lack of hygiene, withdrawal from responsibilities such as school or work, regularly making excuses to not show up when they have made plans, and financial instability or poor impulse control. Mentally unstable does not always mean narcissistic or sociopathic, but it can include depression, substance misuse, and conditions such as bipolar or schizophrenia. If you know someone going through a tough time, try reaching out. Story 5. Numbers. Let me explain. When they see a specific set of numbers and for whatever reason in their head it means something, anything. Check it out, 130. That was the number of the ambulance that my grandmother took when she almost passed away. She's sending me good vibes, OMG. Bro, go to therapy, get help, just get away from me, this isn't healthy. Story 6. Delusional thinking. A few years ago, my brother was saying very impressive stuff. He said things like he developed some fancy computer programs and pulled someone out of a burning car on the freeway, etc. I believed him. As time went by, he claimed he created an airplane and got a degree in chemical engineering along with a business degree. He also believed the FBI was recording his phone conversations. And then it got worse. He started smelling really bad. He shaved his head and grew a mohawk. He got ketamine treatment and seemed to have completely changed. I no longer recognize him. His eyes look distant, and that's not the wonderful, protective brother I knew when we were young. It's like something else has taken over his body and mind. He's been gone for a few years now, even though he is still breathing. Story 7. I wouldn't say most of these signs are subtle, like overreactions are not a subtle sign because it wouldn't be something you overlook. Subtle signs of mental instability include, has an off-putting and uncomfortable dark sense of humor, makes light jokes about being a jealous or dramatic person, obsessive tendency, smiles after deceiving others, shows subtle signs of smiling or glee in their eyes when others are suffering, can explain to you in a clear manner why they have an issue with someone even if you ask them follow-up questions, are harsh on friends or family but kind to strangers, view a no as the beginning of a negotiation, don't respect silence or a non-answer as a boundary when it comes to texting or phone calls, plans apologies and reconciliation after conflict around major holidays. Their social media feed and recommendations are frequently rage bait, toxic jokes, and edgelord humor. Scripts all their talking points when it comes to confrontation. Consistently sympathizes and normalizes the behavior of offenders, psychopaths, and other highly volatile individuals. Story 8. Highly religious and consistently quoting Bible things like God has a plan for all of us, or Jesus is our best friend, or that anyone who doesn't believe in God, whatever God doesn't matter, is a lost soul that needs saving, etc. Yikes. Authoritarianism is absolutely mental, and trying to scare someone or brainwash them into a cult because of beliefs has caused a lot of wars on this earth for thousands of years. I think it's safe to say 95% of people like that are definitely mentally unstable. Story 9. When they can't have any normal conversation with someone who has different opinions than them, these people are yelling, having these meltdowns, and just don't want you to speak by constantly not letting you talk. I saw this with people like Charlie Kirk and Piers Morgan with his guests. Look, when you want to have a conversation with someone and you start talking, knowing this person is very different from you and your beliefs, then don't come if you can't handle it. I talked with many people who have different beliefs than me, like religion, life, or any other ones. I didn't agree with them, but I respected them and listened to the end. I told them mine in the end, and almost every single time it ended up nice, but sometimes it just can't, and when it doesn't, they start talking some random, completely irrelevant stuff and start with some insults. I see this all the time, and these people frustrated me a lot, but now they just don't because they will not change, and I have my own problems, and there is no need to worry about people that don't have anything to do with my life. Story 10. My mom is schizoaffective and bipolar. Literally, it is a subtle change of tone in her voice, a kind of lack of interest or care also emerges, and if you see her, her eyes are strangely different. It is hard to describe the unsettling look in her eyes, but it's like she's shifted and is someone else. It actually makes my stomach flip as a person who was left alone with younger siblings overnight as a child, dropped at houses of strangers for days, and had a traumatic experience where I had unfamiliar chanting directed at me all night. I was forced to perform painful acts on myself on repeat for hours and was slammed backwards hard on the floor when I tried to escape. Luckily, I was told I wasn't her daughter anymore and had to leave at dawn. I called Dad from a payphone. Younger siblings were terrified as I was that I would be terminated all night. Needless to say, my mom at least, there is a change in voice, reduced care, interest, or empathy for, say, even grandchildren, kind of expressionless, and a change in her eyes. People seem to either not notice or tell me she seems off-kilter but don't know what to do. There hasn't been a major event to put her in the psych ward for a few years. Story 11. They take normal things as personal attacks. I work with a guy who took it personally that one of the girls asked him to get her something. He saw it as her picking on him. He also blew up because another guy saw him at the store with a woman and asked if it was his girlfriend, and he lost his composure. Also, someone that picks fights over everything and can never be wrong. Bonus points for if it's obvious they get off on getting you mad or worked up. My friend's dating a guy like this. He will literally disagree with you just for fun. You say the sky is blue and he will say it's green just to see your reaction. Story 12. I'm not sure how to word this, but what I noticed in people who have mental illnesses or are unstable is that they usually have issues being actually functional. They seem to refuse to work in any way or have some sort of discipline with day-to-day living. This could be as simple as brushing their teeth or exercising. I had this close friend online when I was a teenager, and to keep it short, he gave up on his education. Despite being a straight-A student, I would slowly start to do nothing all day besides stay at his house on his PC. Over the course of the year, I saw his mind degrade and become lost. Story 13. I don't think this is mentioned often, but people who are typically narcissistic have almost like a Munchausen syndrome. They like to state that they have a bunch of illnesses at a young age for attention or to excuse certain bad behaviors. Just to disclaim, I'm not discrediting those who do have these illnesses. These type of people really make it hard for others who really do have these problems in their lives. It frustrates me, and it's become a more and more common thing I see with mentally unstable people every day. Story 14. When someone is always jumping to the worst conclusions about the intentions of others, even in instances that are completely benign, and then often using those assumptions to form long-standing opinions, basically inferring meaning onto the actions of others needlessly. For instance, I had coworkers that always assumed other coworkers were going to lunch explicitly to gossip about them if they were also not invited, despite people often inviting each other to lunch without inviting multiple coworkers. They'd make these broad assumptions without any supporting evidence, and then they'd always have a negative opinion of those people afterwards. Story 15. A lot of the signs I'm reading here are fairly overt, though definitely worth mentioning. One thing I've noticed is that in the chaos friend sort of unstable person, where their life is falling apart due to their own choices and ignorance, usually combined with circumstances, admittedly, they will be borderline unable to keep their phone charged during important parts of the day, or their phone will go out when they most need it, i.e. navigation to go to new places, music for work, etc. If their phone is out of battery so much it's interrupting their life frequently, it's often a sign they aren't doing their part in other areas of their lives. Story 16. So, my aunt and grandma, if something doesn't go their way, they will attack you and bring up everything wrong you've done in the past. Things you told them at a vulnerable time to open up to them, they use against me. And they yell and scream, saying harsh things like, "I hope you pass away a slow and painful departure." Then they turn around and say how sorry they are and try to blame their behavior on somebody else. For example, "I just get so upset when CYS comes here. You're clearly taking your anger out on me, and I have a 5-month-old baby and I don't trust them alone with her because what if they take their anger out on her? They have physically disciplined their own kids, so I just don't trust them. But it's deeper than that, LMAO. Story 17. Even when they're being nice and friendly, I feel completely exhausted by being around their energy. They latch on to a bestie and form cliques, especially in the workplace. Everything that gets said to them is somehow repeated elsewhere, creating potential for awkward dynamics. No nuances, discretion, or subtleties. They talk about themselves and their problems a lot. They see themselves as superior while being a secret hater. They have an enmeshed mother that they run to every 2 seconds for toxic advice. They latch on to people that have shown them no loyalty and even rejected them on some level, while rejecting people that have been kind and loyal to them. I'm saying this from observing this behavior with both friendships and romantic relationships. Story 18. Y'all are criticizing the people who hold these issues, and I don't get it. Mental illness isn't just hallucinations and being like, oh, I'm so sad. For example, I'm considering admitting myself into the psych ward soon due to me currently experiencing an episode of extreme paranoia and rage, to the point where I'm afraid I may act on it soon. My wife thinks I might be bipolar, and for the longest time, I was just masking the ebbs and flows of it with substances and alcohol. Now that I'm clean, holy crap, my mind is my enemy. It needs to be snuffed out. Story 19. It really depends on your definition of unstable in terms of specific diagnoses generally regarded as such. Borderline, oversharing, or seemingly oblivious to common social boundaries, brings up topics like sexuality, personal faults, or illnesses right after meeting someone, changes best friends frequently, very few or extremely strained family ties. Antisocial, total lack of remorse, disregard for laws or ethics when doing so benefits them even slightly, like running red lights or drinking and driving consistently, for example. Unaware or unconcerned by politics, news, or events that do not directly affect them. Casual cruelty or disregard for animals, sometimes charming or manipulative. Narcissism omits discussing the achievements of others, projects extreme self-confidence but may also soften it by occasionally making jokes about it. Difficulty being alone, often charismatic and subtly manipulative. Many acquaintances, but few or no close friends. Asks for progressively larger favors, difficulty with authority, or undermines authority. Schizophrenia, extreme difficulty with changes in routine, lies frequently and seemingly incapable of admitting to lying, either frequent mood swings or constant, stable affect, even in chaotic, stressful, or exciting situations. Sometimes fastidious about following even minor rules, prefers to spend time alone, including choosing careers, hobbies, and partners that lead to solitude. These are all generalizations, are not comprehensive, and do not include the less subtle signs. Additionally, these examples are all through the lens of American/Western culture. It can look different in other cultures, but usually has the same general themes. Story 20. I've experienced firsthand a narcissist ex-boyfriend. He was diagnosed by a trauma therapist who holds a master's degree who said that he is a narcissist. It was great and fun for about 6 months, and then his mask started to slip and I saw the real him. The subtle changes began slowly until it was very apparent. The charm doesn't last. A narcissist is very manipulative and a professional gaslighter. If you find you're in this sort of relationship, do your research to find out what a narcissist is and their behavior. I'll add, if you are with a narcissist, run away and get out of the madness. Story 21. Feverish, incessant spam texting, calling back-to-back, spiraling in severity of emotions if a reply isn't received quote-unquote fast enough. Inability or lack of desire to do anything without someone else helping or doing it for them instead. Constantly requiring attention and others to regulate the environment of every situation for their emotional comfort. Disproportionate reactions to varying situations. Story 22. One thing that I've learned the hard way is that some people with serious internal issues will simply not be able to conceptualize that other people have boundaries. It's not even always a case of them knowing a person's boundaries and choosing to disrespect them, but just simply not consciously acknowledging common personal boundaries that other people are likely to have, and just walking all over them without even seeming to notice they're doing anything wrong. I unfortunately dated someone like that for a while, and trying to explain my perspective on the issue was like talking to a brick wall because she just didn't get that her wildly inappropriate behavior was affecting me. Story 23. They're always having a problem, issue, or drama with someone or something, like always. There's never any reprieve. Someone is always after them and they don't know what they did. Yes, they do. Bet your life that these people are always drama queens and kings. They actively cause or summon up drama wherever they can, wherever even the slightest offense might exist, because they don't have a sense of self, and being angry and offended is the only passion they ever experience. Walk slowly away from these people once you see this becoming a habit. That never turns out well. Story 24. Joking about hurting people or animals, or blowing up about little things, or completely ruining the mood when people are joking, like someone disagreeing or arguing with seemingly unimportant facts when everyone is just kind of vibing with the joke or story or something. Like, does it really matter? Is it really important in this context if that minuscule detail that one person said was actually incorrect or said wrong? Not really, so why did you end the mood? We were all laughing, having a great time, now we're rolling our eyes while you pick a fight. Story 25. I've met a few, most likely schizophrenic or seriously ill people. One at work, one in my former city. I don't know how to explain it, but something with the way their eyes react to conversations is completely off. Not off as in creepy, but just not properly tracking, following, or reacting. It's immediately apparent, a strange effect. No one would miss it, like Brad Pitt in that one movie where he played a schizophrenic, also talking to people who aren't there. The man I worked with who went off his meds after getting the job was quite clearly suffering. It got worse every day. First rocking in his chair loudly and constantly, progressing to threatening coworkers and talking to a computer screen that wasn't on. It was very sad. It wasn't his fault. He threatened me, but he was ill. Story 26. Near the end of our marriage, my husband started lecturing my son about the size of the spoon he was using to eat a snack. My husband claimed it was about etiquette and manners, but he never complained about it before. My husband got to use whatever it took to eat whatever he wanted. It turned into a physical altercation over silverware. I asked him what he would do if I had done the same thing to his kid, and he said he would have me arrested. He got another woman pregnant behind my back. All I did was have a crush on a guy, and it was grounds for divorce. Story 27. My brother is very repetitive. He will ask you something, you'll answer. The conversation around you will continue, and a few minutes later, he will ask again, maybe a little differently. This will happen again and again, him asking the same question in a different way with long pauses in between, almost as though he's trying to get you to answer a certain way. Eventually, he will just get up and leave the room dissatisfied. Sometimes he will text me days later confirming my answer to the question. It's so weird but harmless. He's diagnosed as schizophrenic. Story 28. Canceling plans and making excuses not to do things. Lack of motivation and interest in normal activities. Lacking hygiene, even simply not brushing hair or teeth, especially if it's out of the normal or putting less effort into appearance. Messy house, unable to cook or stay on top of normal tasks. Defensive and hypersensitive, irritable, sleeping more or less, eating more or less, drinking more alcohol, smoking, spending, eating, or taking substances more frequently, getting in trouble at work or with the law for things like traffic offenses, fixation or obsession with certain things, could be anything, on higher alert, on edge, failing in study, taking time off work, more interest in things that make you withdrawn from socializing, such as spending way more time on the internet or listening to music, more shy and nervous, less involved with conversations or more embarrassed when talking to people. This is what I experience when my mental state starts faltering anyway. Story 29. Ever talk to someone for a while, like know the guy for months, and realize one day you don't really know anything about them? You can't recall them ever mentioning a family member or even a favorite color? Maybe you went out to eat a few times and they always insisted you pick the restaurant, like they're scared to let you know anything about them. They're perfectly friendly, get you to talk about yourself, listen to you ramble about your hyperfixations, but when you try to talk to them about them, they suddenly don't have anything to say. I've met a few people like this, and most of the time I never figure out what's up, but a few times I've gotten them to open up about being bullied or emotionally mistreated as a kid. And if any one of these stories are getting to you too, don't forget to hit that subscribe and like button for more videos just like this. Story 30. I work in the mental health sector and have my own mental illnesses. When you say, quote, not quite all right mentally, I am interpreting it as also covering people who are experiencing passive or active thoughts of ending it all. You need to have a gentle, private, non-judgmental conversation with them if they talk about hurting themselves or others. They often make cryptic remarks like, not long left now, or it will be all over soon, or there's no point in being alive, or just making flippant jokes about ending their life. You've noticed a sudden drastic change in demeanor, i.e. they used to seem depressed and withdrawn, but they are suddenly really happy and outgoing and making plans to see people they have not talked to in ages. This is often a sign that they have created a plan to hurt themselves and a date, so they want to say their final goodbyes. If someone discloses to you that they have been having thoughts of ending it all, take it very seriously. Don't panic. Ask about whether they have made any attempts or planning to do so, whether they have anything at home that they could use to hurt themselves if anyone else knows, etc. If they live with someone, can that person hide the object they are planning on using to hurt themselves? A couple of pointers: stay calm, reassure them that you are there to help, not judge, and that you don't think they are a bad person for feeling distressed. Give them your full, undivided attention. Do not let them leave on their own. The vast majority of these incidents happen when the person is alone. If you can't stay, call one of the friends to come over, fill in said friend on the situation. Respectfully persuade them to let you take them to the hospital and see a mental health professional. Do not keep the disclosure to yourself. They will need a network of trusted people to keep them out of harm's way. Always let them know that you have to tell a professional. Ask which one of their loved ones should know about what is going on. This should be a trusted adult. Some people's loved ones are dangerous, volatile, unpredictable, and cannot be trusted with this info. Tell them about what you are doing. Be transparent. There's nothing worse than making a distressed person feel powerless. If you suspect that someone is distressed but they have not said so, have a conversation with them and, if appropriate, ask them if they have thoughts of ending it all. Contrary to popular belief, this will not put ideas in their head. If they are depressed, chances are they have already thought about ending it all, however fleetingly. Studies show that people who have been saved from attempted self-injury experienced relief and gladness when someone kindly reached out and asked them if they were having thoughts of hurting themselves. Also, call it what it is. Don't say, don't do anything stupid. Not only is this vague, it will make them feel ashamed and less likely to let you help them. Give information, i.e., where they can seek help, not opinions, i.e., ending it all is cowardly. Hopefully, you won't have to use this advice, but if you do, I hope it's handy. Story 31. For myself, I retreat within myself more. I stop initiating conversations, engage less in conversations, etc. The happy, positive facade starts slipping the longer that goes on, and then people are less inclined to engage, and the isolation escalates. I'm pretty self-aware these days, so I usually give myself a couple of days of living inside my head, and then I force myself to get back into engaging with people, even if it's the last thing I want to do, because I do actually enjoy being alive for the most part, and I've got kids that need a mother. Story 32. Anything out of character for them. For someone, this could mean them withdrawing from friend groups and social situations where they're normally the center of attention. For someone else, it could be taking more risks than normal, and suddenly they're the center of attention. Then you have the general things, limited or no eye contact, not sleeping or sleeping too much, not eating or eating too much, being agitated, losing their temper quickly, and being overly emotional and sensitive, talking about ending it all, fixating on specific things to the point it impacts their life negatively, and disassociating from life in general. The other thing people need to remember is that what often happens is what you will see someone snap out of a depressed mood quickly and be fine, so people stop worrying about the person. But later, the person ends it all. This is because the person had made a plan and they had given themselves an escape route. I highly recommend doing a mental health first aid course if you are interested in being able to recognize the signs that someone is mentally unwell. Story 33. Oh, I know this one. Avoiding places or situations due to feelings of dread or fear, be it rational or irrational. Abandoning relationships because, quote, before they can abandon you, to avoid having to face rejection or criticism. Social isolation, losing interest in things you once found joyful or fun. Forgetting to shower and keep up with hygiene, becoming angry or sad in a split second with no apparent reason, and not fully understanding why themselves. Giving up. I've been trying new meds, but honestly with the way the world is going, maybe I'm not crazy. Maybe this is self-preservation, minus the forgetting to shower part. Honestly, I'm distracted and I do need to work on it. There's so much bad in the world, so much bad happening every day. I'm honestly fine with not having friends, less people to disappoint me in the long run, less people expecting things of me. And I'm not out here ranting at people in stores or anything. I'm not causing anyone any trouble. I really just hate this world right now, and I don't want to participate until it gets its stuff together. Story 34. In terms of depression, I know that my humor gets really dark and goes down the path of jokes about ending it all. You'd think that'd be obvious, but in my experience, people only notice it when they're really paying attention. I don't even notice I'm doing it, nor do I do it intentionally because they're not funny jokes, but it just takes over. Once it creeps into my language, that's a red flag for me that it's time to get some help. Another one is a lack of enthusiasm about the stuff you know they love, like if they don't talk about their favorite music for a while. When I'm beginning a depressive episode, the very first warning is that I stop dancing and stop listening to music. I told my psych, if I stop dancing, I'm in trouble. Now he asks, when is the last time you danced, to gauge where I'm at. Story 35. As a person having a hard time in life right now, how do you ask for help? I hate the idea of asking for help, like maybe I'm just being silly. I used to be such a motivated person. My grades in school were so good and I had a plan. I don't know where I went downhill. It was like a switch flipped. One day I just stopped having motivation to even get up. I feel like my brain is tired all the time. No matter how much I sleep, it doesn't feel like enough. I went to all my college classes today, but getting up and getting ready felt like such a hard task when it's not. Story 36. I have a few things I used to track where I am. Think of scales. On one side is published books, on the other side is fan fiction. If I end up locked away in a hidey hole reading fan fiction for 18 hours a day with a compulsion to keep reading fan fiction, then I'm in a bad place. I have found some food quirks, food that makes me wig out. If I have a mental breakdown, if someone opens a can of tuna fish while I'm even in the same house, I'm not okay. This one isn't even subtle. If I keep getting irrationally angry at everything and everyone, then I'm not good. If I can't bring myself to cook a meal, not good. If I'm not doing laundry, not good. If I can't stand listening to people talk or being around other people, not good. If I have no patience, not good. Story 37. There's something I've only come across a few times before but recently experienced with a friend's family member for about 2 straight days. Adults who talk and act like a kid. I was in a car with a friend's cousin who was 45 years old, a full 10 years plus older than any of us, and she just kinda had a childlike demeanor to her. The trip was about 9 hours in either direction, and at no point during it did she stop talking. But she didn't just talk the whole time, she repeated herself over and over again and often looked to us for validation. That's cool, right? That's funny, right? Etc. This reminded me so much of my younger brother who has some learning difference LD issues. But this woman was a director of nursing at a hospital. She was clearly intelligent and accomplished, but even from the start of the road trip, the way she said and did things was very childlike. Every time we asked her to put her seatbelt on, there was a new excuse. She was too full, too hungry, needed to relax a bit before doing so, etc. When we stopped to get food, she did what a child does. She needed direction and would follow one of us around the Taco Bell as we waited, having a very tenuous grasp on personal space. This went on and on for the entire trip, like having a 5-year-old with us who we just couldn't wrangle in. It reminded me a lot of a friend whose middle-aged cousin has some developmental disorders that have stunted them in a childlike mentality, except that this woman was actually well accomplished. Story 38. For me, it is spending a great amount of time on my phone, scrolling, not tidying my bedroom, and not studying. I don't have any mental illness, but sometimes I really have these periods in which I feel so hopeless and not wanting to do anything and feeling apathetic. I had one of these periods 2 years ago and now it is hitting me again, and I've been like this for about a month and a half already. I don't know how I will get out of this. I feel like this time I can't bounce back like I did 2 years ago. I don't even really feel like living. I don't know how to explain it, but it doesn't feel that real as it did before. It feels less real. I don't know what's going on. I know it is laziness. I don't get off my phone. I can't do anything because nothing seems worth it. I tell myself to study, go out with friends, read because I love reading, and go on walks, and my thoughts are, why? Why would you do that? It isn't worth it. I want to literally stay in my bed, sleeping all day. The only things I have been doing are going to university, going to the gym, and being on my phone. Story 39. My wife works in mental health, and oddity I've noticed with people who tend to have more severe forms of mental illness but who are coping with it, they say a person's name more often than most people do, especially when they don't need to make a distinction by using the name. Bob, what do you think of the Reds' chances this year? Can they go the distance, Bob? It's a subtle thing, but if you look at it, it starts to become obvious. More often than not, that person has severe bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, or some other debilitating disorder. Story 40. I only showered because I have to face people all day for my job. If that weren't the case, I would have showered much less during depression. The only thing I would get away with was not washing my hair for a week since I would wear a tight ponytail anyway. And the biggest sign for myself was the moment I started sitting in the shower, just sitting there for about an hour or longer, head in the water stream just right so the water covered my ears, drowning out all the outside noise, and then cry about absolutely nothing, just existing. When I look back on those moments and how I acted in general, I just wonder how no one noticed I wasn't okay. Did I really hide it that well? Story 41. As a therapist, I'd say constant rumination about the past, almost an obsession about something not involving trauma, more like a friend that hurt your feeling once, angry obsessions. Excessive alcohol and substance use, constantly being bothered by something, almost finding something to bother you or irritate you. Isolation to the point you begin to think there is no one else like you or understands how you feel or who you are. Constant arguing, animosity, and contention towards other people. Constant criticism of others is a huge sign of depression or mental health disorders. Story 42. Every once in a while, I have flashbacks of the trauma that I have endured during my childhood. My last trigger was when a coworker at my current job, who became a supervisor, gave a big brother vibe. It was nice of him, but when we were alone, I kept flinching when he made sudden movements. In my mind, they were sudden movements. I was able to become more comfortable around this person once I figured that I was actually older than him by a little less than a year. PTSD, post-traumatic stress disorder, can be shown as an exaggeration of a normal event, but the person sees it as more extreme than others, and it's always expressed in a form of fear. There's no known cure for it because it differs from person to person, which is why studies are being done to care for those who have it more so in the military. Psychologists can determine the why when these patients are open with them. Story 43. For me, severe psychotic depression. It's slowing down in all possible ways, movement, speech, thoughts. Everything feels to be in slow motion. A friend asks a question, it'll take so much time to answer or even make eye contact. And usually, halfway of answering, I've forgotten the question itself and just ask again what was the question or answer something irrational. Conversations are so hard and take so much energy from me when I don't feel well, so I end up avoiding them fully. Thankfully, I have friends, family, and a partner who have been seeing this for years now and know what to do when things get bad. Story 44. Someone who stops caring about things that previously they were pretty passionate about. I had a really hard time when we lost my older sister unexpectedly. I was pregnant and we were remodeling our bathroom. I went through all the emotions to keep baby healthy, but I just didn't care about almost anything. Just nothing. Tiles, layout, baby names, nursery layout mattered at all anymore. Over the course of 6 months ago, as I learned to process my grief, I came out of it. But I think any kind of unexpected apathy should be a red flag to loved ones. Story 45. For me, personally, I've been told that people notice my depression is getting worse when I start to slow down physically or mentally. Walking slower, taking just a little longer to react to questions, or pausing longer than usual. And as has been mentioned, hygiene, it takes time to learn the signs and they will be a little different from person to person. The other one that scares me more is a very sudden burst of happiness after those other symptoms. Sudden happy phone calls or meetings with friends or family, reminiscing, things like that, could be signs of depression, so do stay vigilant. Story 46. Talking to themselves and staying away from the public, pretty much not wanting to be around anyone. And that's because of the way they've been treated before because of their mental illness or other things by family, by society. It just gets worse when you have no one to talk to, so you talk to yourself. When you have no one to figure things out with, you try figuring things out by talking to yourself. When you have no friends where you live and everyone thinks they're better than you talk to yourself. And then you get depressed, you get anxious, you get nervous, and you don't want to be around anyone. I'm slowly getting better, but I've gone through it. It's hard, it's tough, and people don't understand because they don't go through it. They think it's funny because you're talking to yourself, but when you don't have anyone to help you figure it out or know who to talk to about your problems or just everyday life, you talk to yourself and it gets worse every day. Story 47. When someone is excessively happy or energized all the time and you never see them with any other kind of emotion. And I'm not talking like Batty dancing around on the spot off with the fairies overtly happy. I'm just talking noticeably happy, cheery, consistently, to the point that it's like they can't turn on any other emotion. You say something sad or thought-provoking and their response is a plastered-on smile. Oh, really? And all happy and complimentary about the amazing thing you just said or some whimsical story to make you laugh? They are masking their emotions, and being like that all the time is a sign there's an emotional disconnect and they don't want to face their real feelings or let you know their real state of mind. Sometimes the seemingly happiest people are actually depressed and just can't show it. Story 48. As someone who has multiple diagnosed mental disorders, poor hygiene is a big one. It's hard to be clean when you don't feel clean internally. Little to no motivation, sitting in bed all day, or staying inside. This can be caused by many things. In my case, it is anxiety and agoraphobia. Loss of appetite or a gain in appetite. Sometimes eating just becomes too much of a task. With other people, it can turn into an unhealthy coping mechanism. Stress, anxiety eating. With this can come an unusual drop or bump in weight. If they have pets or even children, they might seem less interested in them. The care might not be the best or be neglected. Caring for others when you don't care for yourself is basically impossible. Substance misuse and fixation, no need to really explain. Poor sleep habits, many things can cause insomnia. Sometimes sleeping seems like an escape. Sleeping all day is another sign. Risky behavior, taking big risks without a plan. This can also be a drop in impulse control. Unusual intimate activity, drops in libido or hyper-intimate tendencies can be a big problem with lots of mental illness. Changes in mood, being more irritable, sensitive, sad, or not feeling things. Dropping grades or work performance changes. This is just a small list, not even the half of it all. Please do take care of yourself or whomever. I hope this helps. Story 49. Watching for changes in behavior. For example, I used to be hellaciously organized, early to everything, sociable, responsible, etc. In the past few years, my mental health has tanked and I'm the opposite now. I cannot organize anything in my life. I'm chronically late to everything. I've basically become a recluse and I can't handle even making a simple phone call to pay a bill or even talk to a friend. So if you have a friend who is normally high speed, as we would say when I was in the military, and you notice that they're starting to slack, you might want to check on them. Story 50. I've been asking myself this, I have ended up close friends with some people who have ended up showing significant signs of instability. I feel that some of this is a reflection on me. I am missing some red flags and signs. One friend repeatedly made really sketchy decisions and always had a justification to make them seem sound and well-reasoned. But they were dumb as hell and always led her life into a trash fire. I was sort of in a live and let live mindset, so I would kind of be like, that was weird, and I would move on. Her life progressively got more and more unstable until it became clear that her poor decisions were a reflection of her mindset, and her mental health. Story 51. It's in the eyes. Also, you'll likely be able to instinctively sense when things are off with a close person in your life. Don't ignore that. It might just be that they're having a rough month or something more, but there's no harm in making sure they're okay. Personally, I've experienced trying to masquerade depression with an upbeat tone and energy so that it makes it a lot easier to spot others doing the same. Depressed individuals often call out for help, all in different ways. It can be very hard to see if that person wants to hide it, but it's there. Story 52. Huge, really big leaps in thought and assumption. Thinking lots of things are signs for other completely unrelated things. My sibling's schizophrenia started to appear around age 20, 22. At his job's Christmas party, he was chatting with his boss who was simultaneously fiddling with his wedding ring. My sibling was absolutely certain that if they didn't propose to their partner soon, they would be fired. Their boss was absolutely trying to make that clear to them in that conversation. Anytime that there's a higher form of communication that other people couldn't possibly understand, it's time to seek help. Story 53. Just as a personal example, I don't struggle with hygiene as much as many seem to when dealing with depression, but I do get hardcore task paralysis. Doing literally anything I even slightly don't want to do becomes impossible. So the dishes and the laundry pile up, there's clutter everywhere. This isn't my fault. My wife and kids just throw stuff everywhere, which adds to my depression. So while I lay on the couch or the bed or whatever and just try to mentally escape, I don't eat. I just want to sleep. My daughter has ODD, oppositional defiant disorder, so if I don't do what she wants right away, she beats the heck out of me, which is usually the trigger that makes me spiral. Then after that, I just lay there and let her hit me. It's easier than getting up and making her seventh snack of the past hour. I just can't do it anymore. So I just lay there and curl up and let her hit me. Fun stuff. I love the weekends. And if any of these stories got to you too, here's more for you. YouTube thinks you're going to love this. I'll catch you in that video.